Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Guten Morgen, guten Tag, guten Abend.
Ja, John.
Ja, wunderbar, wunderbar.
And willkommen along to episode 100.
I don't know that in German.
That was my next question for you. It's the centenary episode of the Sofamanager Scottish Football Podcast. Nothing too special planned for this celebration episode, but thank you very much for being with us. And we will discuss a little bit of the start of the show this week, what it's meant to get to 100 podcast episodes, and what it takes, and some tips as well for any budding podcasters out there.
There we go, we have got everything in.
Yes, it's perhaps more out of persistence rather than success, but nonetheless,
Indeed.
we're here to share that information with you. There was also the announcement this week of the provisional Scotland squad.
Indeed.
So we'll be walking through the 28 members of that. And we'll also be talking through the digs that Scotland currently have as well, along with our favourite special at this point in time. It is Euro or
You know.
Very popular on the social media, I'm sure. Anyway, joining myself, I think of myself currently as the Stephen A. Smith of Scottish football punditry at the moment. Do you know who Stephen A. Smith is?
Stephen A. Smith?
No. Nearly. He's a very controversial American pundit that just spraffs absolute nonsense.
Oh, good. So he's up there with kind of like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he's not a million miles away. And when you posted, because John's responsible for our social media output.
That's why it's that bad.
Well, when you posted that sort of controversial like Hearts clip of me first, I've gone, oh no, everyone's going to be like, this guy is full of absolute nonsense. Anyway, joining myself, Paul, it is our very own viral social media star in the closet. It is John.
Hello.
You've upped your game on the reels and things like that this week.
What I've moved into is the 21st century.
Whoa! What are you? Analog Paul over here, who was unhappy with his compressed audio last week.
Oh yeah, that was a bugbear. Messages galore about that.
Anyway, if you do want to see any of our social media output, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts, of course. Anyway, shall we get straight into things?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, so episode 100, John. Centenary.
It's 100.
Yeah, 100. Is that what it is?
Is in German.
Gotta be careful how we say that. But yes, it's very exciting. When we started out this podcast, it was really a conversation from the pub that expanded into recording in a caravan with some old Guitar Hero microphones.
Yes, yeah.
We then upgraded along the way with USB microphones from Maplin Electronics, if anyone remembers that. Now we've outlasted them.
True. Yep.
For one thing, and now here we are in we'll call it a sort of portable studio that appears once a week.
Yes,
if Paul can be bothered to rearrange his hockey jerseys for football tops, but we'll gloss by that. So, what did you ever expect that we would make it to this many episodes? For one thing,
no. What you should say though, there is a small hiatus between episode 90 odds.
Well, like 2 years,
2 years or so. Partially, well, definitely my fault, but no, absolutely not. I didn't think we would ever even start it again when I moved home. Well, hopefully this will continue a bit more regular than what it's been over the last kind of 2 years. But a lot happened in between, like London happened, COVID happened, the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis.
Oh yeah, all big impacts.
All big impacts. Yeah. Electricity's not cheap, but
no, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, we're all tightening our belts.
No, absolutely not. I mean, don't know about yourself, but it's been interesting. I've learned a lot about me and how badly I look on camera, as much as I do in real life. Chrome dome galore. You can see the effects of stress. If you go back to episode 1 to now, the damage is incredible. Like, it really is. Like,
yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. Fortunately, the first few episodes were audio based. There's definitely a few more silver hairs on my locks as
you've
well.
Got silver hair.
Well, yes. let's not be ones to complain. Yeah, it's been thoroughly enjoyable. I like, whether you get 10, 20 views, whatever, the fact that there are people out there that we don't know that are willing to tune into this always astounds me. And we seem to have, very informed viewers. Only one time do I recall actually, well, maybe twice do I remember inflaming the Scottish football community. When the football men came over to Instagram, there was the famous Paul Gascoigne Rangers incident. And there was a Hibernian picture I posted of Neil Lennon looking very angry that irked a lot of Hibernian fans.
Yes.
As well.
That got a lot of abuse for the green jacket principle as well.
Probably.
Probably definitely did.
Yeah. So, but beyond that, we've been okay. We've kind of steered clear of abuse. And I think we hopefully find like-minded individuals. So what would your tips be, John, in terms of... Because again, we have lots of well-informed viewers. There was comments this week from a Rangers fan in particular that were well informed, and we've had other Falkirk fans, we've had St Mirren fans, things like that tuned in as well. So what would your tips be for starting a podcast in this day and age?
In effect, if you think you're talking sense, get it out there. We're in the new age, like communication. If you feel even remotely confident to do what we're doing, just sit in front of a camera, splaff absolute nonsense on a weekly basis, it's worthwhile. Like I say, you learn quite a lot about yourself, in terms of how you speak, and I'm still working on that. But
drinking game. Every time I say take
yes,
a shot,
you notice things that you would never normally notice.
Yeah,
random pauses. The fact I can go off on a wander and then defeat my own argument quite a lot is really bad. It's really good things. And if you're like sort of coming to the point where you're maybe looking for a job, this is prime CV stuff.
Okay.
I kid you not. Hobbies and interests, I do a podcast. 20 minutes solid, provided you like football when you actually go into the interview.
That's getting rarer these days.
It is a bit. But it's one of these things that it makes you, it stands you out a little bit from the herd, and that's been really good fun. We're still kind of anonymous in the grand scheme of things as well, so when we go out we never get noticed, which is peak. That's absolutely brilliant.
There was one Hearts game that someone was sitting behind us at, but only recognised us once we'd posted the Instagram picture after.
Yes.
Which I think still counts. Which is
no.
Haven't signed any autographs yet, for that reason at least.
And I in a weird way, I can hope it kind of stays like that, because it's the anonymity is all right.
John wants the fame. He wants it. He wants the hospitality boxes, the invites to all the big events.
Listen, Stuart and Tam have to retire at some stage.
Is that the goal?
That is the goal. That is the goal.
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually, because when we started out, podcasting was still a little bit more of a niche than it is now.
Yeah.
It's huge now, really, really big thing. And of course, just as it was really building, we took our foot off the gas and left. So that was great timing.
Another top tip, don't give up when there's a trend happening.
Yes. I think what's interesting for me is I've kind of watched a lot of Scottish football podcasts this week, and there's an interesting balance between, the quality of the output that you see and the sort of content. And content's really king. If you have an interesting idea, if you have something interesting to say, an interesting video, what was I watching this week? It was about when the SPL stadium rules changed and they required 10,000 seater stadiums.
Yes.
And he was talking through how that came about and the sort of impacts of that. Really interesting video. Again, not the world's most fantastic equipment. Loads of views because it was interesting content. So, yeah, give it a try. Share it with us. We'll be there to have a look. It's always interesting to see these things, and it's hard to get your voice out there, particularly in the days of the YouTube algorithm and things like that. But no, I agree with everything you say. It makes you stand out. Good for mental health and things like that, and it's good to chat.
Absolutely, and I would leave the technical stuff to yourself to explain, because that is far beyond my capability.
I would do that behind the scenes, but when I was setting up this week, there's certainly more moans and groans than there previously has been in the past, of me stretching to move charger cables and all sorts.
Sage.
Indeed. Anyway, this week, or last week, we saw the Scotland base. Now, I was going to try and remember the name of this place, and I was repeating it over and over before we came on air. I knew I wouldn't do it.
Great.
So do you remember where Scotland are staying for the Euro 2024 qualifying?
No, but it's somewhere just outside Munich, if I remember right.
So, Bavarian resort, I think. Munich's in Bavaria, isn't
yes,
it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Yes.
Right, okay.
Repeat it for me. Garmisch-Partenkirchen.
Kirchen.
Kirchen.
Sounds
a bit Scottish, doesn't it?
No.
I thought I thought it did. Anyway, they're staying at the Hotel Obermühle. Obermühle. Very good.
Is it to the umlaut over the...
It's got the umlaut over
yep.
the U. It's almost Ubermühle. A beautiful scenic destination near the Austrian border, which apparently they're closing for the Euros. So and I was like, well, how are people? Anyway, so I don't know. There were security concerns and things like that. But it's a very scenic hotel, sort of spa hotel. There was double digits of saunas and steam rooms, I believe.
Yeah, that was a bit unusual.
Well, that should mitigate injuries, perhaps. Fuel rumours. Who knows?
Is there a cotton wool factory next door?
It's very interesting. They're also bringing a chef to supervise.
I found that bit really, really weird. Why do you need a chef to supervise something that's going to be deep fried?
I don't know, Germany, it's not all deep fried. Well, are you saying the Scotland
I'm saying the other stuff.
Oh, right, okay.
We'll deep fry your bratwurst.
No. But this is chocolate. I'm not deep frying. Yes. We're still putting that Mars bar in the deep fry. My favourite part of because we saw the tour it's on the BBC Scotland website. It was on BBC News. Mm-hmm. Chris McLaughlin with the whitest trainers a man could find. That seems to be the trend at the moment among pundits.
He looked like a bee-inspired model. Apart from the fact he's not a model.
No, John. No. But he was definitely doing his best sort of Dion Dublin impression. Yes. Wandering around the sort of, this is very, this is lovely. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to be Homes Under the Hammer anytime soon.
Absolutely not. Like, Dion Dublin has it down to a T. We should have just got Dion Dublin to go out.
He would have done well.
Infinitely better.
He would have done well. See, he was Welsh, isn't he? I think he was.
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot.
I think he was in the Welsh national team. My favourite part of Scotland's digs, though?
Games room.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Retro arcade games.
I was trying to work out I saw, they had NFL Blitz. They were mainly these arcade, one-up machines, but they had, racing ones in the corner with the steering wheels and stuff.
Yep.
And I've yet to work out what they are. So, if John McGinn or Andy Robertson or Kieran Tierney are tuned in, if you could take a wee snap of the racing arcade games and send them to Paul at Sofamanager, not my actual email address, but if you do get in touch, I'm willing to share it, then do let us know. And of course, very scenic training pitch. Looks like it's at the foot of the Ochil Hills, some might say.
True, yeah.
Probably more dramatic mountains than that, but nonetheless.
Yeah. It's more Sound of Music than anything else.
Yes, it is very scenic. Now, do you know where they stayed for the Euro 2020 campaign?
Oh, blimey. Would it be in Loch Lomond?
It was not Loch Lomond.
No.
Darlington. That's where they stayed for the Euro 2020.
How stupid is that?
I couldn't work that out at all because it was a weird one because this was the tournament that was played all over Europe, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, but all our games are... Well, two of the games are in Hampden. One down in London.
And Wembley. So in between that...
Is Darlington.
You have Darlington.
Right. Okay.
It's not really in between either. I was looking at it because there's a racing circuit nearby and I'm going to have to probably stay in that area to go and visit that racing circuit. And I was like, it's kind of neither here nor there. You might as well have just stayed, as you say, Loch Lomond or something like that.
Well, if you think about it, we've paid off absolute fortune to build the Ariam Centre in Edinburgh.
Yes.
Why not just stay in Edinburgh? Is it
why stay in Edinburgh when you can stay in Darlington? Yes. So these are better digs. Hopefully they aren't too distracting for our wonderful footballers, but it is very exciting for those who get to go. So shall we discuss those who are likely to be occupying the rooms?
Well, we'll get down to business now, shall we?
Yes. So provisional squad, 28 players named, isn't it?
28 named, 26 will be
26 go. So we can play a reality show of to go or not to go.
Oh dear.
Nope. You're not buying that?
I think there's more to would not go than would go.
Right, okay. Right. Where are we going to start? Are we going to goalkeeper our way down, or are we just going to pick out some...
I mean, we could goalkeeper our way down. I think that's... A lot of it's actually quite straightforward the more you look at it.
I'm trying to find the thing you sent in the group chat of the picture.
Would you like my notes, Paul?
No, they're very nice, by the way. He's got different colours. And I can see the puns underlined this week again.
I'm doing alright.
As we had last week.
Keepers wise, it's exactly what you would expect. You've got Xander Clark, Craig Gordon, Angus Gunn, Liam Kelly. If you're trimming from 28 down to 26, Liam Kelly is
obvious candidate.
Packing his bags, I'm afraid.
The thing is, Gordon's played 3, 4, 5 games this season?
Yes, but he's still better than Liam Kelly. And what really, really doesn't matter at this stage is if Angus Gunn will be
He's
number
like
one.
numerous. You could basically take no other goalkeepers apart from him, really.
Other than some kind of freak event, he will play every single game right to winning it.
Yes.
So yeah, you don't need 4 goalkeepers at this stage. Three standard for a tournament, I guess. But
is it not bizarre that he has even put 4 in this provisional squad?
it is a bit. I get it. I mean, it's harsh to kind of say to particularly O'Kelly, thanks but no thanks at this stage, because Craig Gordon does come back into the equation when no one really expected him to.
41 years
old. I mean, it must be between him and Buffon for the oldest player to appear potentially at a tournament.
Euro.
So yeah, that's an easy one. Liam Kelly will be dropped out, and then you're picking one from the other 24 players.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Liam Kelly's he had an interesting career. Did really well with Livingston. He had that really good buyout clause, I think, at the time, didn't he?
Potentially.
Went to QPR, did not really work out there. Has come back up and has kind of been Motherwell's goalie. I haven't really noticed him, to be fair.
No, I think he's a run-of-the-mill Scottish Premiership goalkeeper. Fine.
It is sad.
It's a good career for him, but
I think we don't have more Scottish keepers to be pushing this. Aberdeen fan, no Scottish keeper. Not many, apart from Hearts, who have 2 here.
Well, that's the other
Xander Clark, by the way, must be thinking, geez, will this guy ever get away from my right shoulder? Would you just buzz off, Craig?
Will he just retire already? Come on.
It's a blooming nightmare. Because again, you're talking there as if to say it's going to be Gunn and then it's going to be Gordon. Is going to be your 2.
I imagine that would be pecking order.
Yes, which is not the way it is at Hearts, and probably rightly.
Over a season, definitely.
But he's one that you can't get away from. So, Defenders, got
Liam Cooper, Grant Hanley, Jack Hendry, Scott McKenna, Ross McCrory, Brian Porteous, Tony Ralston, Andy Robertson, John Suter, Greg Taylor, Kieran Tierney.
Okay.
Where do you begin?
There's basically no fullbacks here. Well, no.
Well, there's 2, but they play on the left. And Tierney and Robertson.
So this is going to bring us towards the structure of the squad, isn't it?
We now kind of get into it's up to yourself if you want to kind of take it forward. I mean, basically, who's missing and do you slot them in or out to begin with? So, for me, you're fine right up to Ross McCrory's a debatable one, but then that's needs must.
He's just back from a knee injury or something?
He's just back from a knee injury, so he's
barely played for Bristol City
wounded.
Ever.
And then his backup, or potentially he's the backup too, Anthony Ralston, who hasn't played an awful lot of games either. He's only played 9 or 10 times this season.
I feel I've never understood, because I remember we watched him in the Championship. Well, way
back when.
Yes, way back when. For Dundee United, I was like, nah, this guy's not making it for Celtic. No. And to be fair to him, he has. And I think I've always carried that probably misconception with me as well. I saw him at Dundee United years ago when he was young and thought, meh. He did go on to taunt Neymar in a game that still got beat.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That always resides in your mind as well, though, him just laughing at Neymar. I kind of want that.
They still got beat that game.
They still got beat, but they have that kind of the Gallus attitude.
Yeah,
they kind of go into it. That's what you want. I am really conflicted as to even now that those 2 are the options.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you play at right back? Genuinely, who do you play at right back?
I think they've got to go Robertson and Tierney on opposing sides.
No, you can't though.
But then, you have here gaping holes then. Because
you do. This is all asymmetrical. This is all on the left side.
And that people
of the lineup.
I think this is the big problem with this team, is it's too predictable and there's no versatility to it. You cannot change.
No, there's no width to the team.
No,
which is an issue. The only other thing that kind of comes into it, jumping into the kind of forward line, is do you consider James Forrest to be your right wing back?
That's mental.
It is mental.
Absolutely mental. Because Ryan Fraser could have made the squad and didn't.
Yes, which I don't know if there's something happening in the background between him and Steve Clark, because he has dropped out the squad for a good number of tournaments. Rounds now for international fixtures.
But Forrest has been out the picture for a while.
Yeah, so he's only recently came back in himself.
Interestingly, I think he scored 5 goals for Scotland. They came in 2 games. Most of them against Israel.
But we play Israel a lot.
Yeah, I know. But no, they came in 2 games. I mean, he's had an alright season for Celtic.
He's came onto a game. I'm not too fussed if I'm being there or not. He's dragged Celtic over the line, actually, when you kind of I would think about the business end of the season. Once again, James Forrest comes to the rescue.
I think
I have no problem with them being there.
No. Before we move on from the defenders, I think they've basically picked probably the strongest defenders they possibly could. It's not like, there's a few interesting ones there. And of course, Patterson's injured. I've just been screaming yes to the camera for those that are listening, because he is rubbish at the moment. I do think that's a confidence issue as opposed to...
He's massively off form, and the injuries have ruined him.
Hickey, I've never been a big fan of. He can't cross the ball very well, but he probably would have been the best option.
He would have absolutely been the best
back.
option. He is the best counterbalance you have to Robertson on Tierney on the other side.
He's not as good as either of them.
He's not as good as either of them, but he still plays at a high level.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate for injuries for a guy that may or may not plague the rest of his career as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously disappointing. And it's really disappointing to see these guys not get to the tournament as well, given that they were the guys that helped us get there in the first place.
That's to be fine.
So,
midfield then, Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Christie, Billy Gilmore, Ryan Jack, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Kenny McLean, and Scott McTominay.
Who was one less letter than
I
Boyce.
knew you were going to bring up the letter thing. You were, of course, going to slam JD into the ground for that.
Raging. Anyway, no sponsorship coming anytime soon for those guys.
Yeah. I think you can tell the only qualm we have with those picks.
It is Ryan Jack.
I don't mind that, though.
I don't mind it purely for the point that we have no other player like him readily available to be picked.
No.
That's my...
Well, one of the BBC Scotland Pundit picks was Lennon Miller.
Oh, Christ. Who was that again?
Who was that? Was that Leanne Crichton?
No, that was...
Oh, we've got it written down.
I've got it written down.
Neil
That was Peter Grant, who famously sunk Dunfermline into the ground.
Must be a big Falkirk man, and if he's going for Lee Miller's son.
That's astonishing. Some of these picks were actually meant off. We'll come back to it maybe, but in terms of the midfielders, Ryan Jack's been the only one in there.
He's always he's mainly played a sort of bit part role, and he has played a role in this campaign, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he's, like I say, he's the only kind of tackling midfielder that's really kind of in there.
I know.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're like the last 5 minutes and you're still 0-0 in the Germany game and you need somebody to start breaking up the play, he's probably the guy to bring on in that circumstance, because, like I say, there's nobody else.
No, which is a theme. Again, the big blow here is Lewis Ferguson.
Yes, but then would he actually get games because Clark doesn't play him?
No. He's always looked all right when he's come on, but again, has only been I'm really interested to see where his future goes, if he'll be picked up by a Milan, Juventus, Inter sort of style team.
Absolutely, because Bologna are third guaranteed Champions League next season.
Mm-hmm.
Does he stay for that, or like you say, there's a big Italian team coming after him, or does a big European team come after him?
It's a big push up to a big next level for someone who's not starting in their national team, bizarrely enough.
It's a strange position. Weirdly enough, actually, I was looking at Bologna's results since he got injured. Mm-hmm. They are actually doing really quite well, even without him, so you're kind of thinking, yes, he's not the talisman that we think he might be. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
And a very good player to them, but he's not the kind of definitive cog in that machine.
We do love our cogs, John.
Back to last week, yes we do.
Good reference.
Forwards into history.
Hold on, Matt. Things disappeared. This is almost irrelevant.
It's default options again.
You've got... Oh, right. No, this is not almost irrelevant.
Kind of is.
Che Adams, Ben
Doak.
Who's that? Sorry?
Doak.
Now, again, I know he's been big chat among Scotland fans.
Again, debatable point.
Lyndon Dykes. Great name is the thing.
Yep.
James Forrest, who we mentioned previously, and Lawrence Shank.
Land.
Sorry, I was zoomed in there.
Shanked it wide.
Quite a long name that as well. It's up there with McTominay if you're getting that on the back of a shirt.
Yeah, indeed.
Who has the longest name? I think it is McTominay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Right. Che Adams, basically a given. Lyndon Dykes, basically a given. Shanklin's probably a given-ish.
Yep.
Ben Doak is probably going to be the second one that's dropped from this lineup.
And the carnage that will cause will be unbelievable. Like,
this is a joke.
It was almost a mistake putting him in there because the hype now around the guy, and when he's dropped from the 28-man squad down to the 26,
it's a waste of time.
The knives will be out for Clark.
He's totally alone here in that, most of these guys have had international call-ups before. They've all been in and around the setup. they're all going to know what's what. He's brand new
You're
to
right.
this.
I've never even considered it in that kind of scenario. He is fresh off the boat. You know, that kind of
Totally.
thing. That's a real Christ. Aye, that's a real concern. Maybe. Well, maybe it's a freshness that we're needing.
He's played 7-8 professional games ever.
Yeah, it's not
starting, I think, precisely none of them at Liverpool.
And he's been injured for the vast majority of the season as well.
And that's the thing is, like, there's a big issue with young players, you know, this day and age, just not getting enough game time. But if you look at someone like, you know, he was Ben Doak 19.
I think he's 18.
He's 18.
So he is younger.
How many games has John McGinn played by 18?
Oof, I mean, he would have been in the Championship with Hibs, potentially.
He was at St Mirren before.
St Mirren even maybe before that. So
And he was in that team.
he was playing dozens of games.
Lewis Ferguson, if you look at his Wikipedia profile,
Huge amount of games for Hamilton at that stage.
Those guys like McGinn, Ferguson, I think actually Kenny McLean as well, have basically had a full career and are in their mid to late 20s.
Robertson must fit that category as well. Robertson's played a phenomenal amount of games.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's almost at the twilight kind of age.
Yeah.
You know, like you say, that's the sad bit about all these kind of guys going into large club academies.
Yeah.
There is a very real risk that these are just going to get lost.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to hope for Ben Doak's sake. You've got to hope for, is it Calvin Ramsey who's at
Oh,
Liverpool?
yeah. I
He's-
forgot about him.
I had to look him up because I kind of wondered, he is, oh Christ, is he a left back or a right back?
He's a fullback.
He was a fullback, and I thought, right, maybe
Played 3 or
maybe
4
there was an
games.
alternative. Injured literally all season. So there's another one that's kind of fallen by the wayside.
Mm. This is our big problem though in terms of squad, in that there's nothing behind these big guys, and we have this weird generational gap now of guys in their prime, probably in their early 30s or late 20s, and then there's a few youngsters in here. I don't think Gilmore's become the player that we wanted him to become.
We all really, really wanted him to be like prime Pirlo.
Yes, that
is the Scottish mentality. He still plays at an incredibly good level though, and in a really good Brighton team. You have to remember that.
Yeah, but he's Scotland's not Brighton.
No,
You're not going to play the same football.
He's an exceptionally good player and an exceptionally good team. You know, it's the same way. You could probably make the same argument with Andy Robertson, who is a very, very good fullback in what is a very good Liverpool team.
Mm-hmm. He can make stuff happen though. Like,
yes,
he's got the potential.
he's got the charisma to get us through it. This is, it's a balancing act between, we have a starting 11 which is brilliant, really, really good. Like, but as you said, anything even remotely below that, scratch the surface,
you're done,
and it immediately falls away. So there's no squad depth to get us through this kind of tournament.
There was the conversation that came about at the time of the Northern Ireland game that they weren't playing tournament football that was open and expansive. This team's not really set up to play open and expansive football.
It's not. It's quite a stodgy team.
At best, you're counter-attacking is what you're really doing here, because there's nothing behind it. Are you going to get into how you're going to set your squad up?
A little bit. So
I think this follows in nicely there.
This is exactly the kind of thing. So I kind of went through it and thinking what we've kind of played over the last couple of years under Clark.
Yeah.
So we've basically stuck to a kind of about 3-5-2, which is usually a kind of 5-4-1 eventually.
The 5-4-1 is what I was thinking, essentially.
So it's kind of like, it's borderline kind of like Football Manager in my mind now, which is a bit concerning.
I think there'll be many viewers out there that will sympathise.
I've had to delete the game off my laptop because it's just a distraction. I can't do it anymore.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's bad. Like,
It's a sad day.
when you're starting Angus Gunn, Robertson, Tierney, Hendry, Porteous, McCrory. You're back 5.
The McCrory one I thought was bizarre, but again,
Well, it's needs must. With that squad, it's needs must. It's either McCrory or Ralston. I have no preference either way.
not Taylor.
No. Actually, see, looking back on that,
I don't think Taylor's ever really had much game time, and
rather than dropping Ben Doak, I would drop
Greg Taylor.
He's not that level. Like, he will be playing for Kilmarnock next season. Convinced. Anyway, midfield 3: McGinn, McTominay, McGregor, Christie, and Adams.
The Mick midfield.
The Mick midfield.
I like that. Has anyone coined that yet?
The midfield Mick, Triple M.
So who did you have up front there? Sorry, Christie and Adams.
Christie and Adams, aye.
Christie's an interesting one. He's never really started Christie. He always tends to come on as a late game impact player.
There's a lot of rotation between him and Armstrong.
Hmm.
So I think
quite different players, though.
They are. That's my only other kind of thing. But Christie has had a really good season at Bournemouth.
But Armstrong's also got Southampton up, hasn't he?
Had a really good season, but it's a lower level.
The thing is,
by default,
in my head, Christie is a player that would do better deeper than Armstrong would. Although I know that in the past Armstrong was a deep midfielder, but he's on a bit further than Christie. He doesn't have the same pace as Christie. But we've never really seen Clark play anyone off a striker either.
No, it's usually quite isolated. And then he's hoping, again, really narrow, or you're relying on your wing backs to get forward. I mean, that, without looking back, that must be pretty close to what the team was against Spain.
Right.
I think that's most likely going into the Germany game. The other kind of experiment on that is he has sort of been tweaking with 4 at the back on a kind of rare occasion.
Yep.
But in that circumstance, again, purely my speculative opinion, again, gun and goal, Robertson, Tierney is your left centre back.
Okay.
Porteous is your right centre back. McCrory or Ralston is your right full back.
Porteous I find a bit scary sometimes. I like him, but he is a meat and two veg,
absolutely. I mean,
defenseman who's he's not missing.
This is my kind of concern. We're back to the kind of like 5 at the back. Do you have Hendry, McKenna, or Grant Hanley?
See, for me,
that's horrifying.
All of those things are kind of. How's Hendry playing in
Saudi
Arabia? Like,
nobody knows.
He's making a lot of appearances, exactly, but we're not watching him. He's not being tested. McKenna at Copenhagen's an interesting one, because that's basically the Rangers and Celtic of Denmark, isn't it?
In effect, yeah.
So, if he wasn't really wanted at Notts Forest, but is that a level above Porteous at Watford? And then why aren't we talking about Liam Cooper in this conversation either?
Yes, because he still gives me the irrational fear.
I've not seen him again in all our games that we've seen in Scotland. I've not really seen Liam Cooper play. Did he play against England?
I think he played against England, and I'm pretty confident he played against Northern Ireland as well.
Right, okay.
He wasn't very good.
No.
So again, that's a concern. As a back 4 or a back 5, the midfield 3 in a 4-3-3 is a narrow
4-3-3.
But it's the kind of
4-3-3.
But is that? But in reality, is
Steve Clark playing a 4-3-3,
which is in reality 4-5-1.
Oh, right, okay. So I was like, what?
Because basically, you're looking at, if you play that kind of narrow 4-3-3, which I think that scenario, if you look at the front 3 first, you'll have McTominay, somebody like Shea Adams or Lyndon Dykes, and again as your kind of 3, but it's basically a 5.
This is radical thinking, John.
But he's done that before. He usually plays McTominay quite far forward.
Yeah, as you should.
And the same with McGinn. So you're playing McTominay as a kind of incredibly narrow right midfielder.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
We're kind of inventing some very niche positions.
It's a really, really narrow formation because we don't have naturally wide players.
Yeah.
Your midfield 3 is basically like Billy Gilmore, Cal McGregor, and Ryan Jack, or someone of that like.
This is kind of your go for it configuration, then, isn't it?
That's basically when we're like needing the 3 points against Hungary. Expect that kind of formation, it's all or nothing at that stage. Again, does it fill you full of ambition and optimism? I want to say yes, but I'm really struggling.
It's hard. I mean, the problem is our most prolific players have been in the midfield.
That's where the talent is. So it's a case of trying to fit as much of that talent into that squad as possible.
Well, I mean, because the manager at Bologna is Motta, isn't it? Thiago Motta. And he's experimented a lot with, is it a 6-man midfield or something like that?
You mean Craig Levine?
I think this is a slightly different setup. But Spain did that a few years ago as well, where they basically just went with no strikers.
No, it was such a fluid formation that
you just flood the midfield. So if worst comes to worst, take one of the strikers off and just stick on more midfielders and just bamboozle. Now, would that work against someone like Germany or something? I don't know.
No, I mean, you're playing for the draw.
And I don't see Clark as being the sort of creative wizard to give this an attempt.
Steve Clark traditionally is stodgy. How do you get through it? And that's actually why that 4-3-3 narrow is probably the most kind of Steve Clark attacking, not very attacking lineup. That's kind of where we're at.
So, some interesting strategies. I think the first one's the most likely.
Most likely.
And then the other 2 go down. But you have arranged that squad into something different. And I think you agree yourself that your first configuration of the more defensive one's the strongest one.
It's the most likely one, and it's probably that is the closest we're going to get to our strongest 11.
Yes.
In my opinion. I'm sure people will be screaming saying someone McCrory shouldn't be there. But I'm really struggling to kind of think of the alternative, given
the thing is, if
restriction.
McCrory is not there, it'll just be someone else. It'll
Yes.
be Ralston, it'll be, just whoever.
It's the same tactic, it's the same
Taylor
formation,
Roberts.
it's just plugging in the names, basically. Like that.
The thing is, as well, because I was thinking about this the other day, because we were calling out for Stephen O'Donnell when we saw Nathan Patterson's antics.
I mean,
And Stephen O'Donnell, if you actually looked at him in the league, he was a good Kilmarnock player. I don't think he was spectacular at Motherwell, but Steve Clarke saw something in him, and he played a big role in the team. He did a job.
Well,
especially against England, he did a job.
Against England, he done a really good job. But you have to remember, in the opening game,
Yeah.
my word, like
Yeah, but then
he was ready to be lynched. Never mind, like start against
But
England at Wembley. Christ,
if you give these people an opportunity to step up, look at Andy Considine, for example. He played a huge role in that qualification campaign. Yes, they didn't use him in the finals, but giving these guys a role, they might step up to the plate.
absolutely, they might have the game of their life, and that's what we're all hoping and praying for.
So again, when you look at Ralston against Barcelona, against Neymar, that was a long time ago, but given that opportunity. So when you mention the likes of McRory and things like that, maybe that they'll go for it there. Suter is I don't know.
He's another one that might drop out.
It's interesting you haven't picked out Kenny McLean in any of your setups either.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan, but
the goal against Norway,
I know,
John.
I know.
The goal against Norway.
that is the only reason he's in that squad. Legit.
But then he scored the goal
I know,
against Norway,
I
and
know,
he can score
I'm not
goals like
disputing
that.
it. I'm not saying he shouldn't be there. I'm just saying that's the reason why he's there.
He's a bit of a super sub, really.
He's a super sub. I bet he's one of these kind of guys that the manager will turn and say, he was a really good guy around the dressing room. Like, just after this tournament, at this point, he should no longer. It should be a kind of phasing out of Kenny McLean and bringing in someone else.
I don't think he's had a great season at Norwich, per se.
No, I think Norwich have had a particularly great season, which is a worry when you've got their number one goalkeeper, their best midfielder, and one of their best centre backs as well in your squad. And we're turning around and saying, well, they got absolutely annihilated off of Leeds in the playoffs.
Yeah, they
second
did.
leg
I
anyway.
think Wagner left, didn't he? Because
He
he was their
was
coach.
sacked,
He's
yep.
a great manager.
So it's a bit bizarre.
This is a big problem with this squad as well, in that these players, a lot of them aren't the main men for their clubs.
No, they're good squad players. Like,
And I think, we love McGinn and things like that, but this season Aston Villa maybe hasn't been as good as last season or early in the season when he was fantastic.
like he's been brilliant for them.
Yes.
But there's players in that Villa team who have done even better, which perhaps detracts from his overall ability. Now, what I really want to look at, and because we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier,
The BBC Pundits!
was the BBC Pundit predictions.
Okay.
Oh dear. Right. To be fair, a lot of them are fairly consistent. They get the majority right, but I think you could have picked a man off the street and he would have probably guessed 25 out of 28
Of those players,
of that
yes.
squad.
Yes, definitely.
No doubt about it. So, kind of going through them. Peter Grant had Danny Armstrong, Kilmarnock,
I
as
haven't
a right-sided player.
I haven't watched a whole lot of Premiership this season, I'm not going to lie.
Neither
So-
have I, but that just screamed it's a slightly different way of spelling Stephen O'Donnell. That it just
He doesn't have the
really-
Clark factor because he's not worked with him anymore.
And as you mentioned, Lennon Miller, who is 17.
But then, what's the difference between picking him and Ben Doak, really? Apart from the fact that Lennon Miller's probably got more game time under his belt.
Yes, but he's not operating potentially at the same club level. He's not playing for Liverpool. If he had been in the Liverpool squad, something like that,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I just found that a bit. That's very left field. Yeah, I found that
There
really
must be a connection
wild.
there with, Lee Miller must be his pal, so he's said, I'll pick his son.
Maybe his godson or something like
Aye.
that. Leanne Crichton, she also went for Danny Armstrong. That's a common theme.
They probably did a Kilmarnock game like the week before,
Yes, it would have been
and it was fresh in their memory that one
It's-
player had a good game.
recency bias.
Yes. Do like Leanne Crichton, by the way. She's grown on me.
She also picked Conor Barron, which Aberdeen.
I'm an Aberdeen fan.
Yeah, so he's
And
again.
but then I like the idea that you're picking from non-old firm Scottish football teams and try to get a bit of that influence there.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not ready.
The funny thing about that is you just mentioned sort of Lennon Miller. You want him in that Scotland squad because he's young and fresh.
Yeah.
But Conor Barron finished higher in the league than him.
Yes.
He's a little bit older. He's probably played more international.
Did he finish higher in the league?
Motherwell in Aberdeen.
No, I thought Aberdeen were behind.
I thought Aberdeen finished up 7th in the league. Never mind.
We're fact checking.
We're fact checking. I'm going to get fact checked.
You keep going.
She also picks Max Johnson,
Who's Max Johnson?
He is a right back at Sturm Graz. He used to play for Motherwell, weirdly enough. There's a weird kind of Motherwell vibe about this.
To be fair, Motherwell did have some very good young players for a very long time.
Now, a lot of people were crying out for Max Johnson in the squad. Now, I don't know whether it's because he plays abroad and it's all very like.
Oh, they won the league, didn't they?
So they won the league and they also won the Austrian Cup.
And he barely played.
He played, if I get this right, he had 8 starts all season.
Oh yeah, you're quite right, Aberdeen. Wait a minute.
So-called Aberdeen fan.
No, wait a minute. No, it's giving me a weird league table of being in like the second phase. So it's giving me like the...
Yeah, it should actually be higher if you look at the overall table.
Oh no, it says here they finished 7th.
Yes, I'm right.
They finished 7th.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, the BBC website was confusing me the other day because the new layout doesn't really give you the league table as it is updated anymore because the new system's rubbish.
Yes,
so I was getting confused. Oh, well done them.
No, congratulations. So there you go. Conor Barron, you should have been in the Scotland
above
squad.
Lennon Miller. Yeah, there you go.
Complaints go to Steve Clark.
Yes.
Hampden Park, Glasgow. No, this Max Johnson thing really bugs me. He has started 8 games all season.
More than Ben Doak.
More than Ben Doak, but the fact that you've had Ross McCrory's probably played more games this season. Anthony Dawson's definitely played more games than him this season. Like, why are you screaming out for this guy who's also 20, never been in the Scotland squad before? You know,
what position does he play?
He plays right back.
Right back.
So this is what it's basically been like. Everyone's went on like FM Scout or
aye.
You know, sort of the FIFA archives and went right. Scotland right backs filtered it. Oh, he plays in for Sturm Graz. Oh, they finished high in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they did. Another great season.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. I mean, they've destroyed RB Salzburg's sort of dominance on that league.
Right.
He's not done anything. He's not been involved in it. Like, he held a trophy like that. Congratulations.
As you say, you're looking for just try something. We have nothing else. Yes. Let's just try something.
Listen,
and that's not necessarily going to work.
When it comes to the Nation League games, if he is actually starting games or he's certainly getting more game time at Sturm Graz, 100% get him in. You know, desperately need that kind of rotation now for young guys coming through.
I did see as
but
well.
Not now. Like,
one of my YouTube suggestions this week was the Chris Iwelumo miss from I think 12 years ago now. And again, that's when we tried something different and sort of threw something at the wall with someone who was far more established than that. Yes. Neil McCann, crucially. Ryan Hardy.
No,
Ryan Hardy.
Now, Blair Spittle.
Now, I like Blair Spittle. I think he's going to Hearts apparently next season, isn't he? I did not know that.
He's still not getting in the Scotland squad though.
Yes, but he is a better pick perhaps than Lennon Miller.
Yes.
I'm a big Blair Spittle fan, but he's not unseating any of those midfielders.
That's exactly what I was about to say. People crying out for, like, you know, some of these guys, and you think, oh, who are you going to replace realistically? You know,
and Ryan Hardy, Plymouth have had a good season.
No, they've not.
I thought they have.
They were nearly relegated.
But in the Championship, though.
Yes,
they should not be anywhere near the Championship.
He scored at least double the amount of goals that Lyndon Dykes has had, so I'll give you that.
In the same league.
With
a worse team.
However,
not as much of a physical presence.
He's not, again, never really been involved in the squad. He's not the kind of player that Lyndon Dykes is in terms of holding up the ball.
What does Lyndon Dykes do for us anymore, though? Like,
how
many touches does he even get a game?
He's got one of the best Scotland chants.
Which one's that?
You're going to embarrass me now.
No,
I'm not doing it.
Come on, I want to hear it, John. Chant.
When you're starting a podcast, guys, don't be done by peer pressure.
Boring.
Quickly, Michael Stewart, David Turnbull. I didn't bother looking up his stats.
Where the heck does he even play?
I didn't bother looking that up.
I think he's down. Is he not Brentford or Bradford? I looked this up.
Yep. Ryan Fraser, which we've kind of talked about.
I think Ryan Fraser would have been a good shout.
He would have been a good shout. Sort of build some bridges there. And we can set off the MLS alarm.
Cardiff City, sorry.
Ryan Gold, anyone?
Do you know, I was I did have the conversation this week because we had a comment from our podcast last week from Will Craig. There you go. Now new subscriber, by the way.
There we go. Thanks very much.
And Rangers fan. So I was surprised. Don't listen to our previous content.
Please don't.
But we were talking about how we don't see that many young players kind of coming through Scottish football anymore, how they're kind of going abroad. And he was talking about, well, why would you want to play here when there's nothing played on the ground, you're just going to get kicked to bits.
Yes.
And that it would be great to see teams play better, but their way of playing better would be more defensive, shutting things down, which I think is definitely the mindset. And I remember he was sort of lambasted a while back for saying that Scotland, like his style of football doesn't suit Scotland.
Gold, yes.
And
he had an interview with, it might be Chris McLaughlin actually.
Something like that, the new property expert. And I kind of scoffed at that at the time. I was like, come on, you should, man up, get a bit more physical. But, maybe there is something to that.
It's true. The MLS is a technical league, but it's not that great. And I think that's why he stands out a little bit. I mean, did he fail in Portugal?
Yes. He was like a second division player
yes,
out there.
But I would still probably argue the second division in Portugal would they be better or worse than MLS? Don't know, never watched any of it.
The thing about
it's an argument for a Portuguese MLS podcast to make. But
who was I looking up? Who was the was it Mo Johnston? Did he play for Falkirk briefly as well?
Yes. Yep.
So I was looking up information about him. I forget why, but he went out to play for Kansas City.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now the captain of Kansas City, John, is of course,
I have no idea. Oh, Johnny Russell.
Johnny Russell.
Yeah.
And he's made a great career for himself out there. Scores a bunch of goals. He captains the team.
Absolutely, but you want to remember, like, guys like Chris Boyd went out to the MLS.
But Chris Boyd was a good striker.
Yeah, he's also a very good mattress salesman as well.
Yes, I remember the advert still. I think I've seen some social media clips of him this week not participating in the league title celebrations and refusing to do Sky punditry when Celtic won the league at Kilmarnock, which is maybe why all these Kilmarnock players are on the pundits' minds. I loved Ryan Gault in the 2 games that we saw him at Dundee United. I think we did try and get him back for internationals, and it just didn't. He's just
not the kind of player, and he knows that himself. And I think, again, you're looking at that midfield. Who does he realistically replace?
He's more similar to like a player like Christie or something like that. He's a bit more technical.
His direct comparison is Billy Gilmore, and Billy Gilmore operates at a far higher level.
He does.
He's a far better player. Ergo, he's in that squad. Stephen Thompson, weird enough, is probably the guy who was closest to naming all 28. He had Danny Armstrong in his squad, and then Tom English, mama.
Yeah, it's not as bad as my Clive Tidsley deal. Clive Tildesley.
Tidsleydale sounds like it's the kind of like opposite of Wallace and Gromit.
You didn't correct me though. You just left me.
Yes, I did. It's just joyous.
To die, to drown. Sorry, not die.
Tom English also went for Ryan Fraser, and he went for who I would went for was Tommy Conway. I am a big fan of Tommy Conway. Well,
funny enough, we haven't mentioned him, but he has had a tremendous season in the Championship.
Yes, Bristol City.
Okay.
Finished top half of the league. If you're picking between Ben Doak and Tommy Conway to introduce into this squad, it's Tommy Conway because he's played more games, he's scored more goals. He scored more goals than Lyndon Dykes. Albeit 5 of them are penalties, but we'll gloss over that. You never know, you might need to score a penalty.
He might have won those penalties, we don't know.
He's your man. He would also have a bit of understanding between him and Ross McCrory. They're both playing in the same team. I just feel he would have been a really good choice. He's actually been sort of called up by the under-21 squad, so he's still very much involved. Given the position we're in, I would have took him over Ben Doak in this particular moment in time.
I'm looking at his stats because I was like, where's this guy come from? Taunton, England.
Yeah, he's English.
Played at Bristol City the whole time, and then there's a Scotland under 21 6 appearances. Yeah, I think that would have been a better one, and I think everyone pretty much unanimously online has agreed whether he'd get game time over those other guys. Clark's very set in his ways, and I can understand why. You need to reward the people that have got you there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, consistency is king in these things.
Like I say, I went through a couple of other guys who you may have potentially expected to be there. We've touched on a few of them: Ryan Hardy, Conor Barron, Danny Armstrong, David Turnbull, Max Johnson. Again, don't understand. The only one that really weirdly popped up was Tom Kearney. Now, Tom Kearney's
still at Fulham.
Still at Fulham. I believe he still plays fairly regularly.
Yeah, he's in the team a lot.
Very good midfielder. Probably plays. So who would you kind of directly compare him to? We don't really have that kind of player.
He's just a kind of run-of-the-mill central midfielder, isn't he?
Maybe Kenny McLean is probably his kind of comparison. Maybe Ryan Jackson's comparison. I don't know what's happened there. That he's just completely fallen off the kind of radar.
A lot of this is to do with reputation, though, isn't it?
Well, so I think he's English.
Yes.
I think by birth. So maybe he's just kind of turned and says, like, I'm not really feeling it. That's absolutely fine. I am not going to push anyone to kind of play for a national team they don't feel anything for.
He's not getting an England team anytime.
He's not getting an England team at all. That's fine. I mean, guys like Livramento, Harvey Barnes, and maybe Anthony Gordon. But I think Gordon will become a Scotland.
Wasn't that the chatter online? No, that was your comment that you just throw money at Livramento.
Livramento, yes. You give him a Castle. You give him Amy Irons. You give him whatever.
Oh, hold on. We're not doing. And this is not. That clip's not getting done for social media. There. That's going to be a deep cut for everyone who gets this far in the podcast.
You give him what he wants, and that would have fitted so. I would have fixed so many problems. But he's obviously not feeling it. That's fine.
Who's he play for? Is it Liver?
Newcastle.
Oh, Newcastle, right, okay.
You know, yeah, it's just one of these things that I think if we do quite well in the Euros, these guys might turn and say, oh, right, that's quite a well-meaning, well-to-do national team.
I might join them now.
Jump on the bandwagon. But at this point in time, these guys obviously aren't feeling it. I'm amazed because you're looking at that England squad and you're thinking you're not getting in that team. Anthony Gordon's the only one.
There's a few interesting omissions from that England squad as well.
There is. Maybe I'll do another podcast, but Christ, that defensive line gives me hope.
Yes. It's not the strongest one we've seen. It's not as strong as the Euro 2020 squad, I don't think.
No, I think goalkeepers were weird. The defence is a bit horrifying. Midfield to front, you will be able to pick a very good.
Someone pointed out to me as well that because Southgate was a defender, he doesn't really know how to do attacking tactics. I was like, well, that's an interesting point, because again, you don't think about it in your career.
He'll do well as the next Man United manager.
I don't know. Wait and see. One thing I would say about the squad as well is we kind of spoke about the sort of gap, and that the top end, the guys in their 30s are really good.
Yes.
And we can have nothing in between. And I always find with sports, you get those generations who are inspired. So, for example, you probably don't have LeBron James without Michael Jordan. Or, you don't have, like, Scottie Scheffler without Tiger Woods or something like that.
Who?
Golf. Yeah, come on. You don't have Sidney Crosby without Wayne Gretzky. That'll get you. Or you don't have...
Lewis Hamilton without Ayrton Senna.
Well, yes, exactly that. And that, like, not to give away too much, but as a man about the same age as the likes of McGinn and co.
Yeah, your legs begin to go, your back hurts.
Well, but I remember growing up with the McFadden era Scotland that were sensational, but they didn't qualify for anything.
Yeah.
But we remember the France game. We remember the Italy game. And that was a big inspiration. The other guys... like the prime athletes were probably watching Andy Murray or something like that and have gone on to become tennis players or something like that instead. And I feel like that's what we're lacking. But anyway, how are they going to get on?
Well, good question. Ask me about 10 pints later when I'm waddling my way down to the Allianz Arena.
It all depends on that first game.
I don't know.
They get anything out that first game, anything can happen.
Yes. That's not going to happen.
I don't know. Germany they've not had a great friendly campaign in the lead up to this.
Did they not beat France?
Okay, apart from that game, they haven't had a great friendly campaign.
They haven't played competitive football beyond the Nations League for quite some time. Again, they're a nation that's went through a transition from being very good and kind of
not very good,
to potentially coming back out the other side of that again. I'm going back to the lineup we did. Yeah, I mean, that's on paper, it's given me the absolute fear. When it gets to the kind of time, though, I'll be feeling better because I'll be nearly finished.
Yes, I think there is a lot of great people out there who are greatly optimistic. I always remember like the view from the terrace, like we're winning the thing, and I would love to do that, but
I would love to be optimistic. I'd love to be a really positive guy.
Yes,
like working 10 years in finance kind of knocks that out of you pretty quickly. Like.
Oh yeah, that will do wonders for your CV there, John.
That tough.
Although I did see, because there's that famous song going around, like of the sort of like dating app girl who wants I want a man in finance, 6'5", blue eyes. You heard that?
Yeah, so I got 1 out of 3.
Well, no, but I did see a comment on that. It's like if you work in finance, they're not above 5'10", and I was like, well, John's above 5'10", so there's something.
You're like. You're 6 foot when you're standing up, but really you're hunched over. You're in terrible posture. Like you say, you got a bad back.
Okay. Anyway, there's 1 out of 3. He'll put in contacts with the blue eyes, it'll be fine as well. Yeah, I think you look back, and we'll get into this in more depth because I think we'll do a proper full preview. But the Euro 2020 campaign wasn't great.
That sticks in the back of your mind as well.
And they did wonderful against England. So when there's an occasion to rise to, yes. Are they going to do that against Hungary, against... who's the other team again?
Croatia.
Croatia.
No, sorry, that was Euros. That was Euro 2020. No, I'm sorry. In my mind, I was just in the comparison there. You would have Czech Republic's probably your Hungary.
Yes.
Germany's your England. And you would have Switzerland as your Croatia.
Okay.
And if you directly compare that, we'll get 1 point against Germany and then we'll humbly lose the other two games.
Right. I think before we round off, we'll have a quick round of Euro or Euro.
Hey.
Now, there's a twist this week in that John's taking the packet off of me. Yes, so we're getting that ASMR. Well,
Is that what it is, ASMR?
Yeah, it's that weird audio thing.
I keep calling it ASML and then I figured out that was actually a business.
Right. There are people out there that I know who always get mixed up about LGBT and they say LBGT, which actually sounds like a fast supercar, which I'm kind of like is...
That'll get them rattled.
Well, it's the same acronym, just in a different order.
Yeah, but you're also missing like the Q and the plus and
right.
something else as well.
You were giving away Amy Irons earlier, so let's not get into it. Right. So, a reminder, whilst John is looking through these, of how this games work. I get 20 yes or no questions to guess the hopefully the most famous and recognisable player that comes out of the packet that John has just opened.
I'm just trying to think of what your actual football knowledge is.
It's not going to be good anymore.
This could be grim.
I've not played FIFA for a few years. That was always the source of deep European footballer knowledge. But basically... You got something?
God. Give me a brief moment. I think I know where he still plays.
the phone definitely has to come out for this. Right.
I've been trying my best never to do this, but I'm going to have to.
What, are you criticising me for doing it?
Oh, yeah, big time.
You got a notepad. It's the same as the phone. It's just different. Right. Can I start pinging you with stuff?
Yes, you can.
Is it a home nations player?
No.
Oh no. Can I point out the last 2 weeks we've had Ryan Porteous and Harry Kane. Now, I reckon Porteous would have taken me a wee while, but Harry Kane would have been dirt easy. Right. Do they play for one of the big nations, i.e. Germany, France, Italy or Spain?
No.
Glory be. Do they play for a Scandinavian nation?
No.
Do they play for an Eastern European nation?
That's what is Eastern European. I would say no.
Okay, how many questions am I on? Are you counting?
4.
4. Right. Is this in Central Europe?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a Swiss player?
No.
Are Austria even there?
7.
I don't know if Austria are there, so it's not Switzerland. Switzerland, Austria, not Germany. Is it a Polish player?
No.
Okay, I'm really burning through here. Is it a Ukrainian player?
No.
Is
9.
Is it a Czech Republic player?
No. 10. You're getting warmer though.
I'm getting warmer. Oh dear. A Romania Romania player would be really hard.
I would never have given you a Romania.
But then I'm really pushing my European geography here. It wasn't Scandinavian.
Right. Revert back to kind of club football. Yeah, that's usually helpful to kind of narrow it.
Do they play in the Premier League?
Yes.
Do they play for one of the traditional big four, i.e. Liverpool?
No. Not the traditional top 4.
Okay, do they play for a new big team, i.e. Man City, Tottenham?
Yes.
Do they play for Man City?
Yes.
Do they play for Hungary?
No.
Damn. I was thinking, is Gvardiol Hungarian?
I thought he was Spanish.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be wrong. So it doesn't play for Man City?
No, he does play for Man
Oh,
City.
he does play for Man City. A Man City.
Central European player.
Central. Oh, no. They've changed so much.
You're up to about 12 questions. I'm sure someone's counting.
Do you know what they will... right.
Right. So
Is it a midfielder?
yes.
So a Man City midfielder. So who do they have? I know that they have like Rodri, who's obviously Spanish. That's not going to be the main man. I don't think Gundogan's still there anymore. He plays Germany. Is it a central midfielder?
Yep, central midfielder.
No. Man City central midfielder.
Was for a Central European country.
Central European country.
Which is relatively close to Czech Republic.
Is it Croatia?
Uh-huh.
It's the man. He used to play with Real Madrid. Is it Kovacic?
It is Kovacic.
Yes.
Not only is it Kovacic, it's a shiny Kovacic.
Shiny Kovacic. let me see there. Oh, I was sweating on that one.
That was about 16 questions.
Kamavinga would have been hard.
Kamavinga was really hard, and then Dubravka was my only other option as well.
I might have been lucky with Dubravka.
I couldn't remember if he played for Man United or Newcastle still.
Is he going to Man United?
I think he was there on loan, was he not?
Højbjerg would have been doable-ish.
Just about. I mean,
is he Tottenham now?
Yeah, this is the kind of issue we'd also have.
Okay. Well, Kovacic got there.
There you go. Not bad.
Yes, I'm proud of that. I didn't think I'd get to do that.
I was getting worried. You were like, you're literally bouncing around Europe like worse than the Eurovision.
I would have struggled getting to Croatia. It's kind of Eastern European.
That's Central Europe.
I wouldn't call Croatia Central Europe.
It is literally across the water for Italy, which is Central Europe.
We're going to look that up. Anyway, I suppose that'll bring us to the end of our Centenary podcast.
It does, yes. With an argument, that's good.
So thank you very much for listening. Please don't clip out any of the weird and wonderful things that you've heard this week. But as I say, thank you very much for listening from myself, Paul.
Yeah, these little guys.
And tune in next week for... What?
101.
Yes, tune in next week for episode 101.
We're doing, something 101.
More previews. We might do kit reviews next week. I think we'll do kit.
Right, so we're doing Fashion 101.
Yes, Fashion 101.
Fashion 101,
with special guests. Anyway, if you've enjoyed, like and subscribe, whichever platform you're on. Have a good evening, a good afternoon, and a good morning.
Cheers.
Goodbye.